All right. Shalom Israel.
Shalom.
We are the I.S.U.P.K out of 1 West on 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commander GEN.YAHANNA. All right. Today, this is our Sabbath service. Right. I am Preaching Officer Mike, holding on for Preaching Officer Yakar, who usually does the Sabbath service. This is Preaching Officer
Sharp.
Preaching Officer Sharp. Right. And we'll be conducting the Sabbath service this morning. All right. So we're going to get straight into it. Right. So you could give me, I'll touch on it. Sir.
Yashala to Israel.
We're going to turn and face the east, and we're going to begin with the Lord's Prayer in the Hebrew.
Abanawa.
Shabbat Shemaya. Padash. Hayah. Shamka. Yahweh. Malaka. Tabah. Ratazaka. Hayah. Aisha. Aratiza. Kawa. Hayah. Shemaya. Natan. Now. Lakam. Kal. Yawam. Basalaknawa. Wakinawa. Basalaknawa. Wakinawa. Wala'a. Tabianawa. Basawan. Abal. Oshayna. Mayan. Rai. Kaya. Laka. Amalakwa. Mahala. Ataparat. Ibalamya. Aman. What we said in the English was, Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Yahweh, thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth, as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. So be it. Yahweh, Basham, Yahushai, What we said in the English is Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh, please give us the power, the power to heal, all manner of sickness, and all manner of disease, the power to cleanse the leper, the power to raise the dead, the power against unclean spirits, to cast them out, in the name of Yahweh. Thank you. So be it.
We're going to say the blessings. Barak, Ata, Yahweh,
Yahushai, Wakala,
Walhayim, Matazabia,
Alwapian, What he said in the English was, bless you, Yahweh, and Yahushai, and Michael, and the angels, Commander GEN.YAHANNA, generals, captains, officers, troopers, and the sisters, Yahweh, in the name of Yahushai. Thank you. So be it.
We're going to say Psalm 121. Ashaya, Ayanya, Ahariam, Wayayan, Yaba'a, Isaiah, Yahweh, Aisha, Tamayam, Baratiza, Samawat, Galka, Ayawam, Samarka, Ana, Wala'a, Yashan, Tamawa, Yashrala, Marka, Yahweh, Zalka, Shamyaka, Yamawam, Yashamash, La'a, Yakalka, Barak, Ayala, Yahweh, Yashamarka, Kalrai, Yashama, Adnaputka, Yahweh, Yashama, Zalka, Abubakar, Maita, Waid,
What he said in the English was, I will lift up my eyes unto the hills. From whence cometh my help? My help cometh from the Lord, which made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is thy keeper. The Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth and even forevermore.
When it says Psalm 83, verse 1. Alahayam,
Mayaka, Atakaras, Ataya, Anna, Abubakar,
Yamam,
Yawan,
I.S.U.P.K,
Iwayaba, Sawada, Wayata,
Yakazawo,
Alpasuwanka,
Amawo, Lakada,
Wakakadam,
Magawia,
Wala'a,
Yasaka,
Shamyasha, Iwada, Kaya,
Nawawat,
Tazawo, Naba, Lakalwa,
Ayaka,
Maria,
Yakawatwa,
Alahaya,
Adawam, Washamai, Alahayam, Mawaba, Wahagariam, Gabal, Malak,
Kashala,
Yashabia,
Tazawo, Gamashawo, Kalawo, Imam,
Ayawo,
Darawai,
Napanyara,
Lawat, Salah, Aishalam, Laham, Kamadian, Kasaya, Sarah, Kamadian, Manakal, Kawaswan, Nashamanwa,
Baaya,
Adaiwa,
Ayawo,
Gaman,
Laadama, Shayatamwa,
Nada, Yam,
Mawo,
Kairam,
Wakazabak,
Wakazal, Manai, Kalnasa,
Yakawa, Nakao,
Nasakamwa,
Asha,
Amawo,
Narasha, Nanawo, Nawat, Alahaya, Shayatamwa,
Gala, Kakwas, Napanyara,
Kaish, Tabiaira, Wakalaba,
Wakalahat,
Wahariam, Kantaradapma, Masaraika,
Abusa,
Patka, Tabahalam, Mala'a, Panyaham, Waya, Yabashua, Yahawa, Waya Bahalwa, Aliyai, Waya, Kapadwa, Waya, Badwa, Waya, Daiwa, Kayata, Shamka, Yahawa, Labadka, Iwayan, Aika, Aratiza.
What we said in the English, this is Psalm 83. Keep no thou keep not thou silent.
Keep not thou silent.
O God,
O Lord,
hold not thy peace.
hold not thy peace.
And be not still.
And be not still.
O God,
O Lord,
for lo,
for lo,
thine enemies
thy enemies
make it a moat.
make it a moat.
And they that hate
And
thee
they that hate
have
thee
lifted up the head.
have lifted up the
They
head.
have taken crafty counsel against thy people,
Against thy people.
and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, Come, and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee, the tabernacles of Edom, and the Ishmaelites, of Moab, and the Hagarenes, and Gebal, and Ammon, and Amalek, and the Philistines, and the inhabitants of Tyre. A.S.U.P.K is also joined with them. They have opened the children of Lot. Salah, do unto them as unto the Midianites, and to Sisera, and to Jabin, and the brook of Kesun, which perished at Endor. They became as dung for the earth. Make their nobles like Oreb and Zeid, yea, all their princes, as Zebah and Zalumna, who said, Let us take to ourselves the houses of God in possession. O my God, make them like a weed, as the stubble before the wind, as the fire burneth the wood, as the flame setteth the mountains on fire. So persecute them with thy tempest, and make them afraid with thy storm. Fill their faces with shame, that they may seek thy name. O Lord, let them be confounded and troubled forever. Yea, let them be put to shame and perish, that men may know that thou, whose name alone is Yahweh, art the Most High, over all the earth. This is the I.S.U.P.K curses. Blessed are you, Yahweh, King of heaven and earth, and all things living. Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh, listen to us now, right now. Send evils and curses, and punishment and destruction to all the heathen that speak against us, thy prophets, the teachers, the princes, the priests, the Israelite brothers, and the school. Send evils and curses, and punishment and destruction to the heathen, and shake loose the treasure of the rich of Israel, that refuse to give to the school, force their riches to enter into thy sanctuary. Send evils and curses, and punishment and destruction to the Edomites and the nations, and their drug dealers, court system, the prison system, planned parenthood, all the governments of our enemies, some Amalek synagogues and armies, Roman Catholic Church, the Pope, Islam, Christianity, Egyptology, militia, Ku Klux Klan, Aryan Nation, Skinheads, Kotikumatazi, gay movement, lesbian movement, spies, workers of witchcraft, NASA space program, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Wall Street, open up the internet and the airwaves, the cable access channels, and the radio channels. Convict the spirit of any of thy people that seek to stop us and bring swift destruction to all the heathen that stand in the way or try to stop us from broadcasting your words throughout the planet Earth. Let loose all the plagues, cause them to go to and fro through the earth and consume them. And the plagues shake the house of the thief and the murderer. Let Yahushai, Micah, and Gabriel come down with a flying saucer and punish all the heathen that come up against us as we speak thy words. Cause it to be known by all that it is the angels that have done it. Cause it to be spread through the media, through the whole world. Cause them to shake at thy coming. In the name of Yahushua. Thank you. Always. So be it. Sir, Yeshabia, to need to be seated. All right, today we're going to pick up the reading from Numbers chapter 13 and verse 19. All right, we're going to start
reading in the Hebrew, and then we will go across to the English, right? All right. This is Numbers chapter 19 and verse, Numbers chapter 13 and verse 19. Wama, Harataza, Asha, Haya, Yashaba, Baha, Hatawaba, Wa'a, Ama, Ra'aiha, Wamaha, Harayam, Asha, Wa'a, Washaba, Bahana, Bahama, Kanayam, Ama, Bamataza, Rayam. Verse 20. Wama, Harataza, Hashama, Hawa, Ama, Raza, Ayasha, Baha, Aitaza, Ama, Ayanya, Wahata, Kaza, Kwayom, Kaza Kwayom, Wala, Mapa Raya, Harataza, Waha Yamayom, Yamya, Baka Waraya, Ainabayam. Verse 21. Waya Ailawa, Waya Tarawa, Ata Harataza, Amamadaba, Tazana, Aid, Rakaba, Laba'a, Kamat. Verse 22. Waya Ailawa, Bana Gaba, Waya Ba'a, Aid, Kaba, Rawana, Washama, Aka Yamana, Shashaya, Wata Wama, Wata Waya Maya, Alaya Da'a, Ahaina, Waka Barawan, Shabai, Shanawam, Ba'ana, Lapania, Tazaaina, Mataza Rayam. Verse 23. Waya Ba'a, Wa'aid, Nakala, Ashakal, Waya Kaya, Waya Kayara, Wamasha Ma'a, Zama Wara, Wa'asha Kawala, Aina Bayam, Akad, Waya Sha Ahawa, Ba'awat, Bashanayam, Wama Na Ara Manayam Mana Ata Waya Nahata Anayam. Verse 24. Lama Payam Hahawa'a Kwara Nakal Ashaka Wala Aid Ada Adawat Haasha Kawasha Kawala Yasha Salakia Yasharala. Verse 25. Wash Bawa Mata Rawa Ha'a Arataza Makwa Taza Ara Ba'ayam Yawam. Right? So from 19 to 25. Yeah, Numbers 19. Sorry, it's like Numbers 13 and verse 19 to 25.
Numbers chapter 15 and verse 19. And what the land is that they dwell in, whether it be good or bad, and what cities they are be that they dwell in, whether it tent or a stronghold. Verse 20. And what the land is, whether it be fat or lean, whether there be wood therein or not, and be you of good courage, and bring of the fruit of the land. Nor the time was the time of the first striped grapes. Verse 21. So they went up and searched the land from the wilderness of Zin unto Rehob, as men come to Hamath. Verse 22. And they ascended by the south and came unto Hebron, where Ahiman, Shishai, and Tamai, the children of Anak, were now Hebron was built 7 years before Zor in Egypt. Verse 23. And they came unto brook of S.H.A.L.A.M, and cut down from thence a branch with one cluster of grape, and they bare it between the two upon a staff, and they brought of the pomegranate and of the fig. Verse 24. The place was called the brook of S.H.A.L.A.M because of the cluster of grapes which the children of Israel cut down from thence. Verse 25. And they returned from searching of the land after 40 days.
Yeah, that was verse 25, right?
Yeah.
All right. So picking up from the last Sabbath, right? This was when the children of Israel was about to spy the land of Canaan, right? The Moses, right, who was the head of Israel, right, at the time, right? The Moses spoke unto him, right, and told them to go and inherit the land, right, which he gave to them, right? But and this is a good example. You understand how the Mosai operates, right? Because here, right, it already had people dwelling in the land, but this land was the land where Israel was supposed to occupy, right? So Moses sent out, I believe was Caleb and Joshua, right? When you read down in the chapter, right? And along with men from every one of the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel, right? And these men were to go into the land to see what type of land it was, right? And when they went into the land, right, they discovered that the land was fruitful, right? And they coming down to verse 24, it show you where they took back, right, to show Moses a cluster of grapes, right? And the grape, it was the fruitfulness of the land was so great that when they took the cluster of grapes, they had to put it on two right, on two staff, and understand, in order to be able to bring back the fruits of the land, right? And when I look at that to show you how well that was really the land of milk and honey, because just one cluster of grapes, right? Put that is to put it on two staffs for men to tote it back. You understand? And I know what a grape today is a small thing, but back then the land was much more fruitful, so things was in full bloom. You understand? Right? And they brought back the some of the fruits of the land, right? And they was to bring back word to Moses now what type of land this was, right? And who was occupying the land. And as we go down a little further, we're going to understand what that was up against, right? So we're moving on, right? Going on to Numbers chapter 13 and verse 26. Waya laka wayab awa al masha wa ala wa harana wa ala kal aidat bania yashala al madaba fa'a rana kwadash waya shabwa atam deba wa ata kal ha'aida waya ra'ayam ata paraya ha'arataza. Verse 27. Waya saprawa lawa waya amarwa ba'anawa al ha'arataza asha shalaka tanwa wagam zabat kal ba wadabsha hawa'a wazaha paraya. Verse 28. Apasa kaya aiza aima hayashba barataza waha ayrayam bataza rawat kadalat ma'ada wagam yala daya haimana ra'a yanwa shema. Verse 29. Aimalak yawa shaba barataza hana gaba wahakarwatya wahayab wa saya wa amaya yawasba bahara wahakanai nawa yawashba ailaham wa aila yaid hayaradna. Verse 30. Waya Asa, Kalba, Ata, Aima, Al-Masha, Waya, Ama, Aila, Naai, Laha, Wayarash, Nawa, Ata, Kaya, Yaka, Wala, Nawa, Kala, Laha. Verse 51. Wa'a, Ana, Shayam, Asha, Ailawa, Aimawa, Amarwa, La'a, Na, Wakala, Wa'ai, Lawat, Ail, Ha'aima, Kaya, Kazak, Hawa'a, Mama Nawa. Verse 32. Waya, Taza, Ya'awa, the Bat, Ha'arataza, Asha, Tarawa, Ata, Al Bania, Yashala, Lama, Ha'arataza, Asha, Aiba Nawa, Baha, Lata Wara, Ata, Arataza, Akalat, Ya, Washabia, Hawa'a, Wakal, Ha'aima, Asha, Ra'ayanwa, Batwaka, Anash, Yama, the what? Right? So you're reading from verse 26 to verse 52.
Okay. Numbers chapter 15 and verse 26. And they went and came to Moses and to Aaron and to all the congregation of the children of Israel unto the wilderness of Paran to Kadesh, and brought back word unto them and unto all the congregation, and showed them the fruit of the land. Verse 27. And they told him and said, We came unto the land whither thou sent us, and surely it flowered with milk and honey, and this is the fruit of it. Verse 28. Nevertheless, the people be strong that dwell in the land, and the cities are walled and very great. And moreover, we saw the children of Anak there. Verse 29. The Amalekites dwell in the land of the south, and the Hittites, and the Jebusites, and the Amorites dwell in the mountains, and the Canaanites dwell by the sea, and by the coast of Jordan. Verse 50. And Caleb still in the people before Moses, and said, Let us go up once and possess it, for we are well able to overcome it. Verse 31. But the men that went up with him said, We be not able to go up against the people, for they are stronger than we. Verse 32. And they brought up an evil report of the land which they had searched unto the children of Israel, saying, The land through which we have gone to search it is a land that eateth up the habitants thereof, and all the people that we saw in it are men of a great stature.
Right. And this is when the men came back from spying the land of Canaan, right? When they came back from spying the land of Canaan, right? And verse 28, it says, Nevertheless, the people be strong that dwell in the land, and the cities are walled and great. And moreover, we saw children of Anak there, right? This was a prominent family, right? When we read to the lesser nations that was dwelling in this land, was a lot of Africans, right? A lot of Amalekites and Hittites, Jebusites, Amorites, and Canaanites, right? I believe Canaanites is South Africans today, right? So a lot of Africans were dwelling in the land of Canaan, right? And when they went over to the land, and they realized a lot of these other nations were dwelling there, right? Caleb came back to give Moses the report, right? But some of the men who went with him, they brought an evil report, saying that the land wasn't as fruitful as it was, and that the people that was living there was much strong and was much mightier than them, right? Because they just didn't want to go into the land to take it. You understand? Right? They didn't want to fight to take the land because they knew they had to go to war with the people, right? So that was against Caleb and Joshua, right? About going to the land, right? These men brought up an evil report which was not true. You understand? The land was a great, a wonderful and fruitful land, but they had their own agenda. They didn't want to go into the land of Canaan, right? And we all know this is a land that the Most High gave to the nation of Israel. So if they didn't want to go, then they automatically end up against God, because this is something the Most High that was their inheritance, that the Most High already promised to their forefathers, right? Right, so we're going on from here to Numbers chapter 13 and verse 33, right? And we're going all the way down to, so you're starting back on Numbers chapter 13 and verse 33 in the Hebrew, right? The book of Numbers chapter 13 and verse 33 in the Hebrew. Washama, Ra'aya, Nawa, Ata, Hana, Paya, Fana Layom, Banya, Ainakwa, Mana, Hana, Palayom, Wana Hayom, Ba'ai Yanwa, Kaka Gaba, Kaka Gabayom, Wakayan, Haya Yanwa, Ba'ai Yan Yawam. Verse 14. Wata Sha'a Kal Aida Waya Tanawa Ata Kawa Lama Waya Bakawa Haaima Balaya La'a Hahawa Waya Lanawa Ail Masha. Chapter 14. Chapter 1 again. This one. Wa'aila Aha Rana Kal Banaya Yashala Waya Amarwa Alahama Kal, Ha'aida, Lawa, Matanwa, Barataza, Mataza, Rayum, Awa, Bama, Dara, Haza, Lawa, Matanwa, was 3. Wala, Walama, Yahweh, Waba, Ya'a, Atanwa, Al, Harataza, Hazata, Lenapal, Lana, Pawa, Bakarab, Nasha, Yanawa, Wata, Panwa, Yahweh, Labaza, Hala, Wa'a, Tawab, Lanawa, Shawaba, Matazarahayim. Verse 4. Waya, Amarwa, Wayasha, Al, Aka, Yawa, Natana, Ra'asha, Wana, Shawa, Ba'a, Matazarayam. Verse 6. Verse 5. Waya, Pala, Masha, Aharan, Il, Panya, Il Panyaham, Lapania, Kal, Pahala, Aida, Banya, Yashala. Verse 6. Wayaha, Salakia, Wayahawashai, Ban, Nawana, Waka, Laba, Banya, Hapanya, Maya, Hata, Rahayam, Hata, Ha Arataza. Para Iwa. Bada Yahayim. Right, the ending of the 6. Right, so reading from verse 33 and it going to chapter 14 until verse 6. Yeah.
Numbers chapter 13 and verse 33. And there we saw the giants, the son of Anak, which come of the giants, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight. Chapter 14 and verse 1. And all the congregation lifted up their voice and cried. The people wept that night. Verse 2. And all the children of Israel murmured against Moses and against Aaron. And the whole congregation said unto them, would the Most High that we had died in the land of Egypt? Or would the Most High we had died in this wilderness? Verse 3. And wherefore had the Most High brought us unto this land to fall by the sword, that our wives and children should be a prey? Were it not better for us to return unto Egypt? Verse 4. And they said one to another, let us make a captain, and let us return into Egypt. Verse 5. Then Moses and Aaron fell on their face before all the assembly of the congregation and of the children of Israel. Verse 6. And Joshua the son of Nun, and Caleb the son of Jephunneh, which were of them that searched the land, rent their clothes.
Right, and this was after when they came back from spying the land, right? And some of the men who went with Caleb and Joshua, some of them, as we were saying before, brought back an evil report, right? And even part of the report, right? And verse 33, they say, and they saw giants, the sons of Anak, right? Which come from giants, and were in and we, right, were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight, right? So it was great men of renown, right? Men of stature within their African tribe, right? So these were just not ordinary men. You know, sometimes when we think about giants, we thinking about 20 feet tall in the air and all these kind of things, right? These was, if I just like have a man say, people are great man, you say he's a giant. You understand? He mean your works, you understand? Precede or your works is known works, renowned, right? Famous people, right? So these were famous. The report was that these sons of Anak, who was already famous in their African land, right? That they was dwelling in this particular land, right? So now the congregation of Israel, right, we begin to murmur against Moses and Aaron, because and the mind is like the same, but like them bring me here to dead, right? Because now they become frightened, right? They become afraid of the different tribes in the land, right? And the congregation begin to cry, right? And they even go on to say the cry whole night. So from that day till the next day, right, everybody was in a sorrowful mood, you understand? Because everybody was frightened about going into the land to try to take it, because they thought they would have been defeated, right? And they begin to murmur against Moses and Aaron, right? These were the Moses was the man that the most High set up, right? To run the nation of Israel, right? And Aaron, right, was like his deputy, the man right underneath him, right? The man to distribute all the orders, right? Just like we have today, like commanding GEN.YAHANNA and GEN.YAHANNA. You understand? Commanding GEN.YAHANNA is the head of the nation of Israel today. You understand? And then you have all the other generals coming down in rank, then captains, officers, everybody coming down below. Right? And these men bringing this bad or evil report at the land, right, which was not true, caused the people now to become afraid, and they begin to speak against um, um, speak against Moses and Aaron, right? And then now they became so afraid that they wanted to return back into Egypt, because that is the first thing, right? And I just paraphrase it, I scripture talking about the dog returning to the vomit. The first thing, like when you're in the world and it become frightened, it doesn't want to go back where it was. You understand where I'm from? So if you, let me say, you pick up a new job and the job real challenging, the first thing you think about, better I go back to my old work, yes? You understand where I'm from, right? Or better I go back, or you're coming to the truth, better I go back and start to smoke weed, yes, that was easier. You understand where I'm from? That is the kind of thing, because the other face a challenge, most times you want to head back to the place it was before, right? And the most I see that is like a dog going back to his own vomit, right? So the people want to know, the started to want to know, to try to go back to Egypt, right? Because they became afraid. And then now, right, the Moses and Aaron fell on their faces. Right? The verse 5 says Moses and Aaron fell upon their faces, and before the assembly of the congregation, right? Of the children of Israel, right? And Joshua the son of Nun, and Caleb the son of Jephthah, which were of them that searched the land, rent their clothes, right? So the Moses and them begin to go into mourning, because they don't know that this type of behavior is against the Most High, right? Bringing this kind of blasphemy against the place that the Most High sent them, right? They know the Most High will bring down the wrath upon you, so they begin to be mournful and sorrowful, right? And to try to repent, right? So the Most High will save them from that destruction that they're heading to, right? I don't know if you want to say anything.
No, everything good, everything good.
So we're going on to Numbers chapter 14 and verse 7 in the Hebrew, right? So this is the book of Numbers chapter 7, right? So like Numbers chapter 14 and verse 7 in the Hebrew. Waya'a marwa la'a kal aidat banya yashala walama ha arataza asha aiba ranawa baha lata wara ataha tawaba ha arataza ma'ada verse 8 ama ka pataza banya Yahweh waha baya'a ata nawa al ha'arataza haza ata wana tana lanawa arataza asha awa'a zabat kalaba wada basha verse 9 aka baya hawa Allah ata Ata Maradawa wa Atham Al Tayara Awa Ata Aima Rataza Kaya Laka Manawa Hama Taza Lama Ma'ai Layaham Wa Yahawa Ata Nawa Al Ta Yarayam verse 10 Waya Amarwa Kal Hamaida Lara Gawam Atom Ba'a Banyam Waka Bawada Yahawa Nara Ba'a Baha La'a Mawa Ai verse Slakia Kaya Banya Yashala verse 11 Waya Marwa Yahawa Allah Salakia Al Masha Aida Anna Ya Narataza Haima Hazza Wa Aida Anna Al Yash Al Mayamwa Baya Bakala A'ata Hawata Wa'at Asha Aishayat Bakwa Rabawa verse 12 Aka Nawa Bada Badabia Wa Awa Rasha Nawa Wa Aisha Ataka Laga Waya Gada Wala Wa Aitaza Mayam Mamanawa verse 13 Waya Amar Masha, Al Yahweh, Washa, Iwa, Mataza, Rayum, Kaya, Ai, Layat, Baka, Bakaka, Ata, Aima, Za'a, Makwa, Ra, Bawa. Right? So you're going from verse 7 to 13.
Okay. Numbers chapter 14 and verse 7. And he spake unto all the company of the children of Israel, saying, the land which we possess to search it, it is an exceedingly good land. Verse 8. If the land delight in us, then he will bring us into this land and give it us, a land which floweth with milk and honey. Verse 9. Only rebel not you against the Lord, neither fear the people of the land, for they are bread for us. Their defense is departed from them, and the Most High is with us. Fear them not. Verse 10. But all the congregation bed stones them with stones, and the glory of the Lord appeared in the tabernacles of the congregation before all the children of Israel. Verse 11. And the Lord said unto Moses, how long will this people provoke me? And how long it be ere they believe me for all the signs which I have showed among them? Verse 12. I will smite them with the pestilence and discourage them, and will make of thee a greater nation than mightier than they. Verse 13. And Moses said unto the Lord, then the Egyptians shall hear it, for thou broughtest up this people in their might from among them.
Right? And after Moses and Aaron fell on the face, right? Right? Because they already understood, right, that this was an inheritance that the Most High gave to them, right? And now these men bring such a evil report at the land when it wasn't so, right? And it say, well, Moses spake unto the company of the children of Israel, the land which passed through to search it is an exceeding good land. So he has to go on and tell the people now that this report that the report that they bring, that Caleb bring, right, different from the report that these men bring. The land is a good land. This is a land that was supposed to inherit, right, that the Most High promised the forefathers, right, and the land is an exceeding and good land. And it say, right, if the Lord delighted in us, then he will bring us into this land and give it to us, and the land which a land which flows with milk and honey. So this was a very fruitful land, right? You see, land with milk and honey is a very fruitful land. And Moses, right, knowing the spirit of the Most High, he's saying, don't matter, understand? If the Amalekites and Jebusites and Hittites inside it, if that land is away, the Most High go bring me into the land. Don't matter what avenue you have to make. Somehow that they're gonna win that battle. You understand where I'm from? So even though the other men try to bring an evil report, he know once the Lord with them, they're going to prevail, right? And they're going to win whatever battles they need to fight to inherit this land that the Most High have for them, right? And then verse 9 he say, rebel not against the Lord, neither fear ye the people of the land, right? For they are bread for us. You understand? And that I just really the mindset how all of us thinking, because he already knew that the Most High on the side. You understand? So he said the people is bread for us, meaning that there's nothing. Understand? Nobody can do them nothing. Them is big. That local term will use. They say when we say that man is a big, we mean that he's no match for you. Understand? So even if they go up in military might, right, they still wouldn't be able to beat the nation of Israel. So Moses now had to convince the people that can convince the nation of Israel that don't rebel against the Lord, right? Let me go and do what the Lord say for we to do. If he say to inherit the land, we go in and inherit the land, right? Right? And then when I drop down to verse 11, it said, the Lord said unto Moses, how long will this people provoke me? And how long will it be ere they believe me for the signs which I have showed among them? I will smite with pestilence and disinherit them, and will make thee a greater nation and mightier than they. Because the Most High, of course, the Most High could do that. You understand? If the Most High wanted to replace the nation of Israel, he couldn't do it. You understand? Right? He could choose any family on the face of the earth, right, and make them his chosen people, right? But out of all the families on the earth, the Most High choose the nation of Israel, which today is the black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man today, right? And these are the kind of things that the churches don't teach today. You understand? From so people going about their life day to day, living carelessly, not knowing that they were supposed to be the upright and righteous people, right? Because they were people chosen by the Most High, right? So they provoke the Most High by rebelling against the Most High and not wanting to go into the land, because the Most High want to give them this land of prosperity, right? And they want to go back in slavery in Egypt. Understand? Because they become afraid at the people of the land. They find it too hard. Understand? But as a local term they'll use which is nothing comes without hard work. You understand where I'm from, right? When it was the children of Israel right through, a lot of wars to fight, right? All kind of nation come up against them all through the scriptures, right? But once the Most High on the side, they're going to prevail. Understand? And this battle to get into the promised land, the land of milk and honey, right? The people become afraid because in the mind they believe that they would not be able to win. Understand? But once the Lord with you, any battle, no matter what the battle is, understand, you're going to prevail, right? And then verse 13, so verse 13, right? And Moses said unto the Lord, then the Egyptians shall hear it, right? For thou broughtest up his people in the might from among them, understand? So Moses was pleading with the Most High, right? Not to not to destroy them, right? Because the Most High could have just destroyed them and start over a fresh nation, right? Right? But Moses reminded them that they're the same people you take out of Egypt, and now if they fall, you know, right, the Egyptians gonna boast and say, look, or what happened to them? The God failed them. You understand where I'm coming from? So he was trying to beseech the Most High so that the Most High will have some mercy upon the nation of Israel, right? So we're going on to yeah, go ahead. Yeah, right. So you could go ahead.
Right. Yeah. And when you check some of these things, like when you see people around you, so like they get your weak and all too, right? So like when you go back here now, so the children of Israel, when they watch here now, they say they know about Anak and thing, right? Yeah. But how they themselves saying about, hey, if Anak can know about the children of Israel, so when they check back now, hey, what do you think do the Most High do to the children of Israel? He wipe out the firstborn and thing, wipe out armies and thing. That's so right. Like so no one then when you check back the Most High say, but wait now. But these people, let me see what I do for them, and these other nations hear about with them. So like, you know, them being frightened, but they ain't saying the other nations frightened against the children of Israel coming. Hey, look the children of Israel coming, look the children of Israel close to me, you know, so them to be at the defense now, as I say in the scriptures, I think, hey, them right next day, them God is fight for them and thing, and them destroying people. So like, you know, again, when you see some of these people and thing, and you know you're coming in all about and see these people, you have something you want to do. People come with a weak spirit and thing, and they drive them away from you and thing, because them want things happening around you. And even today when you check out and all too, how many weak and all too, when you see the I.S.U.P.K and they see that thing, they're so weak, they always start to say, but wait, look at them dressing like it's only jailers to take out the prison making men. They not no men from doctors and that news, only a set of jailers and thing. But why? Because when they really check it out, them don't want to come in that place to really do things that they most. They want to be out there and be weak men at the world and thing, right?
Yeah, that is absolutely true way of saying it, because when I look back at the history of Israel, the Most High did a lot. Even up until this time, the Most High did a lot of great things, as I say. And as all through Egypt, all the plagues delivered them from Egypt, killed the entire army with Pharaoh. And so them and all, not even studying what them passed through, right? And the Most High delivered them through it, right? And there was they still end up afraid, understand? And as you rightfully say, that is only because weak people, understand, come among them and decide to spread a bad rumor, understand, from and then end up believing it. Understand? Right, so Most High in Christ, man. All right. So we're going on to the book of Numbers. All right, the book of Numbers, chapter 14 and verse 14, right? Wa'amawa al Yawashab ha arataza haza ata shama aiwa kaya ata Yahweh bakwa rabba haima za'a asha ayan ai yana nara aha Yahweh wa ai nanaka aimad aila waba aimad aina ata halaka lapan yawam yama waga aimawad washa. Verse 15. Wahamat ata ha'aima haza ka'a yasha akad wa'a marawa haga wayom asha wama aiwa ata shama aika la'a ma'a. Verse 16. Maga latya yaka lata Yahweh laha baya'a ata haima za'a al harataza asha bashabai lahama wayasha katam bamadba. Verse 17. Wa'aita, Yaga, Dala, Na'a, Kaka, Ada, Naya, Ya, Kakasha, Daba, Ratha, La'a, La'ama, verse 18. Yahweh, Araka, Apa, Apayam, Waraba, Kasada, Nasha, Iwana, Wapashai, Wanakwa, Al Yanakwa, Pakwada, Aina, Abawat, Ail, Banayom, Ail, Shalawam, Shalom, Aila, Rabbaayam, verse 19. Salaka, Na'a, La'aina, Haima, Za'a, Kagadla, Kasa, Daka, Waka, Asha, Nawa, Ata, La'aima, Za'a, Mamatazarayam, Wa'ai. Let's find out this thing. Hannah, verse 20. Waya, Amar, Yahweh, Salaka, Salakat, ya, Kada, Raka. Right. So you're going from verse 14 to verse 20.
Numbers chapter 14 and verse 14. And they will tell it to the inhabitants of this land, for they have heard that thou, the Most High, art among this people, that thou, Lord, art seen the face to face, and that thy cloud standeth over them, and that thou goest before them by day time in a pillar of a cloud, and in a pillar of fire by night. Verse 15. Now if thou shalt kill all this people as one man, then the nation which have heard the fame of thee will speak, saying, verse 16, because the Lord was not able to bring this people into the land which he sware unto them, therefore he had slain them in the wilderness. Verse 17, and now I beseech thee, let the power of the Lord be greater according as thou hast spoken, saying, verse 19, the Lord is a long-suffering of a great mercy, forgiving in iniquity and transgression, and by no means clearing the guilty, visiting the iniquity of their fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation. Verse 19, pardon, I beseech thee, the iniquity of this people according to unto the greatness of thy mercy. And as thou hast forgiven this people from Egypt, even unto now. Verse 20, and the Most High said, I have pardoned according to thy word.
All right, and this is where Moses and others are asking the Most High for mercy. You understand, right? For the people of Israel, so that he wouldn't destroy the people of Israel. All right, and verse 14 is saying, and I will tell it to the and they will tell it to the inhabitants of the land, for they have heard that thou, Lord, art among this people, and that the Lord hath seen face to face, and that the cloud standeth over them, and that thou goest before them by day, and in a pillar of a cloud, and in a pillar of fire by night. So in the day, he covered them with the cloud, right? And in the night, he lead them with fire, so they would be able to see the way, right? But Moses now pleading to the Most High not to destroy them, because the inhabitants, the other inhabitants around go start to boast in themselves. You understand that the Most High chosen people on the face of the earth end up getting destroyed, right? So the Most High asking Moses asking the Most High, right, for mercy, right, so that the children of Israel wouldn't be destroyed, right? And when they go drop down to verse 20, right, the Lord say, I have pardoned according to thy word. So the Most High did answer Moses' prayer, right, to have that mercy upon the nation of Israel. But, right, although he did offer the mercy as we're going to go down, right, they did end up getting a punishment, right, for rebelling against the Most High. So when we go down, we're going to see a little deeper what happened to the children of Israel, and what caused them to end up in the wilderness, right? You want to say anything?
Yeah, and that's a show and all too, that's what Moses and all say and all too in verse 15 and thing like that. There's also people that's not regarding the Most High. You see, for that's one man alone, that's to kill everybody here and all too, and that's to show you power and all too. This is like when you watch around and play the whole place reckless, and when you check it out, the whole place, when you check out the people who say they in charge of doing the Most High work, and them are the people and them are the people and them sinning today, them are the world waiters in a disorder. And you know why? But they ain't afraid the Most High. But you see now what the Moses say that, hey, this one man here to kill everybody and things like that. Like that's not the fear give people fear anymore. So and all, right?
True. You understand? All right. So we're going on to Numbers 14 and verse 21 in the Hebrew. The book of Numbers, chapter 14 and verse 21. Walam Kaya Anna Waya Mala Kaba Wada Yahweh Ata Kal Arataza. Verse 22. Kaya Kal Hana Shayam Arayam Atha Kabadia Wa Athaya Asha Aisha Aisha Yatya Bamataza Rayum Waga Madba Waya Nasawa Ataya Za Aisha Fa'ai Mayum Wala Shamaiwa Bakwa Waya, verse 23. Ama Yara Awa Ata Ha Arataza Asha Nasha Ba'ai Taya La'a Batam Wakala Mana Atazaya La'a Yara Atawa, verse 24. Wa'ai Badia Kalaba Ai Kwaba Hayata Akarat Aimawa Waya Mala Aka Raya Haya Bayatha Yawa Al Arataza Asha Ba'a Shama Waza Ra'aiwa Yawa Rasha Na'a, verse 25. Yaha Ailakwaya Yaha Kan Ainaya Yawa Shaba Ba'ai Makwa Maka Panya Wasa Aiwa Laka Lakama Hamad Daba Daraka Yama Sawapa, verse 26. Wayadba Yahweh Al Masha Wa Allah Aha Rana La Ama, verse 27. Aida Mataya La Aida Hara Hazza Atha Asha Asha Mala Yanayong Ayla, Ata, Talanawa, Banaya, Yasharala, Asha, Mala, Yanawam, Ailia, Shama, Aitaya. All right. So we went from verse 21 to verse 27.
Okay.
Okay, sure.
Numbers chapter 14 and verse 21. But as truly as I live, all the earth shall be filled with the glory of the Most High. Verse 22. Because all those men which have seen my glory and my miracles which I did in Egypt and in the wilderness, and have tempted me now, these 10 times I have not hearkened my voice. Verse 23. Surely they shall not see the land which I swear unto their fathers, neither shall any of them that provoke me see it. Verse 24. But my servant Caleb, because he had another spirit with him and had followed me fully, him will I bring into the land whereunto he went, and his seed shall possess it. Verse 25. Now the Amalekites and the Canaanites dwell in the valley. Tomorrow turn you and get you into the wilderness by the way of the Red Sea. Verse 26. And the Lord spoke unto Moses and unto Aaron, saying, verse 27. Verse 27. And how long shall I bear with this evil congregation which murmured against me? I have heard the murmuring of the children of Israel, which they murmured against me.
All right. So, just as we continue to come down the chapter, we now seeing, right? What was the punishment for the children of Israel, right? By rebelling against the Most High and murmuring, right? Speaking against the man who the Most High set up to be in charge, right? And because they rebelled against the Most High and didn't want to go into the land and cause all this confusion, right? Now the punishment was that they would end up going in the wilderness instead of getting into the promised land. Understand? So the only person that he promised, right, at this particular time here, right, would be his servant Caleb, right? Because he said, because my servant Caleb had another spirit with him, understand, and he had followed me fully. Him will I bring into the land wherein into he went, and his seed shall possess it forever. Right? Because Caleb, no, when Caleb went and spied the land, he bring back the accurate report. He didn't lie. He didn't create evil, right? And he didn't create confusion. You understand? Exactly what he see in the land is what he came back and report. Right? But the other men, right, who went, right, they came up with an evil report because they didn't want to go into the promised land. You understand? Right? They wanted to conquer their own thing and go back to Egypt. You understand? To go back in the same old paganistic ways that the Most High take them out from. All right. You want to say anything on it?
Okay, good.
All right.
Straight on.
So we're moving on. We're going on to Numbers chapter 14, right? And verse Numbers chapter 14 and verse 28. Right? We'll be closing off with this one, right? The book of Numbers, chapter 14 and verse 28 in the Hebrew. Amar, Alayom, Kaya, Anaya, Naama, Yahweh, Amma, Al Kaasha, the Ba Atham, Azania, Kana, Aisha, Lakum. Verse 29. Bamadba. Hazar. Yapawa. Pa Gara Kayum. Waka. Pakwa. Dayakum. Laka. Masapa. Kama. Mabana. Aisha. Rayum. Shana. Wama. Aila. Asha. Hala. Yana. Tama. Aya. Verse 30. Amma. Atam. Tabawa. Rataza. Asha. Nasha. Taya. Ata. Yadaya. Lasha. Yana. Ata. Kama. Baha. Kaya. Amma. Laba'a. Bana. Yapanya. Yahawashai. Bana. Bawana. Verse 31. Wata. Pakam. Asha. Amaramat. Laba. Yahweh. Waya. Baya'a. Taya. Atam. Waya da Aiwa. Ata. Arataza. Asha. Ma'a. Satam. Verse 32. Wapa. Garayam. Atam. Yapawa. Bamadia. Hazar. Verse 33. Waba. Nayam. Yahweh. Ra'ayam. Bamadba. Ara. Ba'ayam. Wana. Shawa. Ata. Zana. Wata. Yakum. Aida. Tama. Paga. Rayakum. Bamadba, verse 34. Amasa, Haya, Mayum, Asha, Ratham, Taratham, Atha, Arataza, Ara, Ayam, Arayam, Yawama, Yawama, Lasha, Yawama, Lasha, Tashawa, Atha, I wanna, Ta, Yakum, Ara Ayam, Shana, Waya, Daitama, Ata, Anna, Wa Ataya. That's the night reading from verse 34 for publication.
Numbers chapter 14 and verse 28. Say unto them, as surely as I live, saith the Most High, as you have spoken in my ears, so will I do to you. Verse 29. Your carcasses shall fall in this wilderness, and all that were numbered of you, according to you, whole number from 20 years old and upward, which have murmured against me. Verse 30, doubtless you shall not come into the land concerning which I swear to make you dwell therein. Save Caleb the sons of Jephunneh, and Joshua the son of Nun. Verse 31, but your little ones which you have said shall be a prey, them will I bring in, and they shall know the land which you have despised. Verse 32, but as for you, your carcasses they shall fall in the wilderness. Verse 33, and your children shall wander in the wilderness 40 years, and bear your whoredom until your carcasses be wasted in the wilderness.
Yeah, verse 34.
34. After the number of the days in which you search the land, even 40 days each day for a year shall be bear your iniquities, even 40 years, and you shall know my breach of promise.
Right? And this is this from verse 28 on down is really Moses instruct Moses to see unto the children of Israel, right? And that's we're running through quickly, right? Only Caleb, right? And Joshua, right, was the only two adult males who were able to make it through, or two adults will be able to make it through to the promised land, right? Everybody else would be the younger ones, which meaning the children, right? At that time, right? Everybody, I believe we were the tie up, right? I believe was from the age of 20 on up, right? Was not able to go into the promised land, right? They end up in the wilderness, and the Most High left them in the wilderness for 40 years, right? And 40 years, right, was the basically punishment they basically gave was every day, because the 40 days, right, that the number of days in which he shall search the land, right? So because they take 40 days in searching the land, right, and this event coming upon, they get 1 year for every day, right? So they end up with 40 years that couldn't go into the promised land, right? To inherit this land, right? And during that 40 years is obviously the older ones go die out, and the children, those was the children at this time going and young years at this time would now be big grown people, right? And they were the ones to go into the promised land with Joshua and Caleb, right? And of course Joshua and Caleb will be 40 years older, so them will be like more like the elders or the leaders of the children of Israel at that time. So it transition, right? Well, we didn't read it in this chapter, but I think Moses and all didn't make it into the promised land, right? So Moses and everybody else died out, right? And Caleb and Joshua, right, along with the younger ones in the nation of Israel, they were the ones to make it in the promised land and continue living in the promised land. And as we go down during the Sabbath service, we're going to get more on what happened in the wilderness, right, and also more on what happened when they entered into the promised land, right? So always stay tuned to I.S.U.P.K Trinidad Sabbath service, right? We go through the books of Moses, and you get the understanding of what happened to the children of Israel, right? A lot of people say that the children of Israel is no longer in the world anymore. That is not true, right? The true children of Israel is the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians living today, right? But a lot of us do not know that because the churches, right, and history books and things, right, and never taught the black man these kind of things. We learn white supremacy, right? So we basically get all our history and knowledge from the so-called white man today. You understand? So a lot of these things are hidden, right? But thank God for commanding GEN.YAHANNA, right? Standing up, staying strong, right? And keep pushing on with the I.S.U.P.K, and the I.S.U.P.K was able to pass down this knowledge, right, through captains and officers, right, and straight on to the students, right. And if you want to be a student in the school, right, the numbers are on the Trinidad web pages, which is the Facebook page. Yeah, we are on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. So just type in I.S.U.P.K Trinidad and Tobago, right. And if you're not from Trinidad and you're viewing this class, we also have schools in all different parts of the world, right? So you could call this whichever school closest near you, right? There are schools in Mexico, all over America, the UK, Jamaica, right, and so on, right? So and stay tuned to the subscribe to the I.S.U.P.K Trinidad and Tobago pages as well, so that whenever an event is going on, right, you would be able to be notified, and you will be able to see whenever we go live, right? Right, and with that, we're going to end the Sabbath service, right? So we're going to stand. Right, I'll blow on the shofar.
That's SHALAM to Israel.
We're going to say the Lord's Prayer. We begin with the Lord's Prayer in the Hebrew, and end of the Sabbath service.
Abanawa,
Abanawa,
Shabashemaya,
Wadash, I.S.U.P.K, Yahweh, I.S.U.P.K, Zaka, I.S.U.P.K, I.S.U.P.K, Aratiza, Kawa, I.S.U.P.K, Ashemaya,
Son,
the walk,
the now,
the come,
the come,
call,
call,
the walk,
you walk,
the
the select now,
walking
the
out,
what now,
the select now,
the select now,
the walking out,
the what now,
the
the now,
the
say one,
ball,
ball,
shine now,
shine now,
the young,
young,
right,
kaya,
Laka,
malaka, ala, atapara, a man. What he said in the English was our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, Yahweh, thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth, as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. So be it.
You go to the half Yahweh, Bashem, Yahushai, Tananawa,
What we said in the English was Yahweh. In the name of Yahushua, please give us the power to heal all manner of sickness, all manner of disease, for to cleanse the leper, for to raise the dead, for against unclean spirits, to cast them out. In the name of Yahushua, thank you. So be it.
We're going to the Hebrew. The blessings in Hebrew, Barak, Atah, Yahweh, Yahushai, Makala, Walhariam, Matazabia, Al-Hapiahana, Al-Wapia, Wadwapiam, Yahweh, Bashem,
What he said in the English was, bless you, Yahweh,
bless Yahweh,
and Yahushua, Michael, and the angel, Commander GEN.YAHANNA, generals, captains, officers, troopers, and the sisters. Yahweh, in the name of Yahushua, thank you. So be it.
We'll say Psalm 121. Ashaya, Ayanya, Ayam, Isaiah, Yahweh, Aisha, Ayam, Rataza, Amawat, Ayawam, Marka, Yashan, Amawam, Yashala, Yahweh, Zalka, Ayai, Yamyamka, Shawamam, Ashamash, Kalka, Wairak, Yahweh, Shamarka, Kalrai, Yashama, Atlas Paka, Yahweh, Yashama, Zalka, Wawoka, Ma'id, Wa'id Iwalam. What he said in the English is Psalms 121. I will lift up my eyes unto the hills. From whence cometh my help? My help cometh from the Lord, which made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is thy keeper. The Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth and even forevermore. Psalm 83, verse 1. Al-Hayam, Al-Malaka,
Al-Chakawash, Tashakwat,
Al-Kaya,
Hana, Awaboka, Yawamam, Yawan, Waish,
and Maka,
Iwadwa, Sawada, Wayata,
Yatazawo,
Altazawanka,
Amuwo, Lakawo, Kakadam,
Garia,
Wala'a, Yasaka,
Shamashal,
Iwada, Aya, Nawat Atazawo, Laba, Yakadwa, Ayaka, Bariyat, Yakawatwa, Alahaya, Adawam, Wayashamai, Alahayam, Mawa'aba, Magariam, Kabal, Aimawan, Aimalak, Pashalaf,
I'm your Shabia.
I'm your Shabia.
Kazawo.
Kazawo. Gamashawo. Nalawo. Imam.
Hayawo. Zawawai.
Zarawai. Panyola. Salah.
I.S.U.P.K.
Kamadian. Asaya. Kamadian. Manakal. Kayaswan. Nashamadwa. Bayarian. Adaira.
Hayawo.
The man. Ladama. Shayatamwa. Nada.
Yamawa. Kairab.
Wakazaba. Katazal. Manai. Kalnasa.
Yakakamwa.
Nayakamwa. Asha.
Amawo.
Nairasha.
Lanawo. Nawa.
Alahayom. Kaish. Tabaira.
Wakalaba.
Talahat. Harayam. Kan. Taradakma.
Basaraika.
Abawasa. Wapatka. Talahaba. Mala'a. Panyaham. Malawan. Wayabaswa. Shamka. Yahawa. Wayabalwa. Idai.
Wayaka.
Kapanwa.
Wayabanwa.
Wayadaira.
Wayata. Shamka. Yahawa. Labadka. Iwan. Alka.
This is Psalm 83 in the English. Keep not thou silent, O God.
Keep not thou silent, O God.
And hold thy peace. And be not still. O God. For lo, thy enemy make it to move. And they that hate thee have lifted up the head. And taken crafty counsel against thy people. And consulted against thy hidden ones. For they have said, Come, and let us cut them off from being a nation. And the name of Israel may be no more remembered. For they are consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee, the tabernacles of Edom, and the Ishmaelites, of Moab, and the Hagarenes, and Gebal, and Ammon, and Amalek, and the Philistines, and the inhabitants of Tyre, Isupk is also joined with them. They are called for the children of Lot, who unto them, as unto the Midianites, as to Sisera, as to Jabin, and the brook of Kisut, which perished at Endor. They became as dung for the earth. Make their nobles like Oreb, like Zaid, yea, all their princes, as Debar, and as Zalumna, who said, Let us take to ourselves the houses of God in possession. O my God, make them like a wheat, and the stubble before the wind, and the fire burning the wood, and the flames set the mountains on fire. So persecute them with thy tempest, and make them afraid, fill their faces with shame, that they may seek thy name. O Lord, let them be confounded and troubled forever. Yea, let them be put to shame and perish, that men may know that thou, whose name alone is Yahweh, are the Most High over all the earth. This is the I.S.U.P.K curses. Blessed are you, Yahweh, King of heaven and earth, and all things living. Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, listen to us now. Right now, send evils and curses, and punishment and destruction to the heathen that speak against us, thy prophets, the teachers, the princes, the priests, the Israelite brothers, and the school. Send evils and curses, and punishment and destruction to the heathen, and shake loose the treasure of the rich of Israel, that refuse to give to the school, force their riches to enter into thy sanctuary. Send evils and curses, and punishment and destruction to the Edomites, and the nation, and the drug dealers, the court system, prison system, Planned Parenthood, all the government of our enemies, Amalek synagogues and armies, Roman Catholic Church, the Pope, Islam, Islam, Christianity, Egyptology, militia, Ku Klux Klan, Aryan Nation, Skinheads, Fuzzy Comitatus, gay movement, lesbian movement, spies, workers of witchcraft, NASA space program, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine, Wall Street, open up the internet, and the airways, the cable access channels, and the radio channels. Convict the spirit of any of thy people that seek to stop us and bring swift destruction to all the heathen that stand in the way or try to stop us from broadcasting your word throughout the planet Earth. Let loose all the plagues, cause them to go to and fro through the earth and consume them. Let the plagues shake the house of the thief and the murderer. Let Yahushua, Michael, and Gabriel come down with the flying saucer and punish all the heathen that come up against us as we speak thy words. Cause it to be known that by all that it is the angels that have done it. Cause it to be spread through the media, throughout the whole world. Cause them to shake at thy coming. In the name of Yahushua. Thank you. So be it. Sir, men of Israel, let's give a one courtesy salute. Imagine Shabbat, Amadium, Barak, Yahweh Shem Yahushua Makata, Yadamakta. Class dismissed.